Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. I'm Crystal Dawn Hill, and I'm here to talk today about the contract between divine partners and how that coincides or correlates or even differs from divine will versus free will. And to start off with this message, I want to share a little story. When I first met my divine masculine, his picture came across my People You May Know on Facebook. And my soul knew instantly who he was to me, but I knew to erase any shadow of a doubt, I needed to hear his voice. And so after I went through the steps of making sure that I wanted to friend him, I did so. And when we started interacting privately, and the energy just went crazy. I knew that I needed to hear his voice. And I asked him for a voice clip, and he wanted to know why I wanted it. And I know I didn't come right out and say, well, because if I hear your voice, I'm going to know for sure who you are. I don't think I said it that explicitly. I don't really remember what I said. But he did comply eventually and send me a voice clip. And I knew the instant I heard his voice that was a voice that just resonated within every fiber of my being. And so, of course, that kind of kick-started the whole journey and the process of healing and clearing and integrating our divine masculine and feminine aspects. And ever since we met, we've been, ever since we met, we've been moving each other along in our journey step by step, like two legs of one body, moving that body forward one step at a time. And that hasn't been necessarily outwardly, although the times that we are in outward contact, that expedites the process and makes it go along faster. But more often than that, we haven't been in outward communication, but we're still operating as one unit in the energetic level from the perspective of the divine. So a question came up today in a group asking what happens if one twin doesn't follow through with the contract. And I have seen this topic come up over and over and over again. And it's been a big theme in my own journey of trying to discern and work out how free will can be a component in this dynamic. Because many times my divine masculine has boasted his free will. And so it just keeps coming up over and over again. And for a long time, I really struggled with this. And finally, I guess maybe after a year or so after we met, this teacher that I had been watching, I had watched the same video of hers over and over. And finally, one day when I was listening, it all clicked into place for me. Twins don't have a contract with each other. They're one soul, so they share one contract. And sure, they have individual lives, and for their individual journey, they have a separate soul contract. And it's kind of like a marriage in real life and physical reality. Like before the two people meet, they have their own lives, they have their own families, their own house that they live in, and so forth. But when they get married, in the traditional sense, of course, those things get combined. So a part of their individual life is no longer in existence. And so, like, they don't have two separate house payments anymore or rent. They have one between them. And if one person isn't sticking to the budget and they don't have enough money between them to pay their rent or mortgage, then both people are going to experience the consequences of that. So that's kind of what the contract is for divine partners. It's like if one of them decides to exercise their free will and act in accordance with their own personal desires and agenda, if that doesn't align with the divine, then both people in that union are going to experience the consequences of non-compliance. Now, in my situation, I'm not experiencing any negative consequences other than the fact that, we're not serving as a unit like I would like for us to. Personally, I'm not experiencing any negative consequences because I'm doing everything that I believe is in accordance with what the divine would have me do. And at the same time, I'm not seeing it as him being non-compliant, because the steps in his own personal journey are still being taken. Like, there's still things in his personal life that hasn't completely been finalized to where he can join me in union so that we can serve as a unit. And that isn't to sound presumptuous or anything like that. It's just a knowing that I have and an understanding that I have within myself. So how does this all correlate with my little story about his voice? Well, this just occurred to me. When I saw the question come up in the group, and I did respond to that person who posted, it was after I wrote my comment, and I was reflecting on different ways that I could explain it. I did use the two legs on one person analogy to kind of illustrate what I wanted to say. But I reflected more into it myself because for whatever reason, every time this comes up again, I feel like it's pointing back at me. Like there's something more that I'm supposed to see about this from my own journey. And I realized something very profound. I wanted to find a way to say to that person that if this person in your life is not going in the same direction as you, then perhaps they're not the one that's meant to be with you. Perhaps they're not your divine partner. And I was sitting and reflecting on all of this, and this thought just came to me, and it really was amazing. When you meet your divine partner and you hear their voice and it so resonates within you, that's because it's your voice. It's your voice in the opposite gender energy, but not the audible voice that's generated by your vocal cords, but rather that proverbial voice that we all struggle to find within ourselves. Our morals and our belief systems and our virtues, the true character of who we are. And if we work to find that inner voice and learn to express it and learn to exercise it in a way that is in alignment with the divine and respectful to everyone and compliant with divine will, that's when we're ready to meet that divine person, that divine partner who shares that same voice. And I believe the reason that their physical, audible voice resonates so deeply within us is because it's a physical manifestation of our vibration. And when we inhabit or embody the same vibration, that's naturally gonna come out through our voice, through our energy, through the spark in our eyes. That's why when two people are true divine partners, someone who's gifted or sensitive to energy can look in both those people's eyes and see the same soul shining through it. That's the first way that I recognized my divine masculine in his picture, was by his energy. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. So I didn't have any intellectual knowledge about his voice other than I always have noticed that with other people that I was romantically interested in, that their voice wasn't precisely what registered inside of me as the true one. But when I heard his voice, it did. His voice does everything for me that I ever imagined a beloved's voice could. It's strong, it's gentle, it's loving, it's boyish, it's passionate, it's protective, and it's healing. And so when I knew that I needed to hear his voice, and he spoke to me on a voice clip, it wasn't about how it sounded as much as how it felt. Although it does sound very pleasing to my ear as well, but it's more than that. It just registers all the way into the core of my being. And I think I've always known that what I explained about it not just being the physical voice, but the proverbial voice within us as well. I think I've always known that and understood it, but never really felt like I had a sufficient way to explain it or illustrate it. So when it was shown to me, when the correlation between that and the contract and free will versus divine will, when that was all shown to me today, I knew I had to share it because I think this analogy and this explanation is going to resonate with many people. And I could go on and on and on about the contract, but I really feel like that would be just kind of, exhausting that topic, because I've talked about it so much that I really would just sound like I was parroting it if I explained it all. If you go on my Facebook page and search for the keyword contract, you'll find at least 2 or 3 articles that I've written about it and different ways that I've explained it. And when I share something, whether it's in writing or on video or in person, when it's fresh in my energy field and I'm excited about it, I'm much more articulate and much clearer in my explanation than if I've talked about it 100 times. So I think you'll get a lot more out of reading the articles or even watching my prior videos on it than if I were to explain it all in detail today. But of course, if you ever have any questions or want clarity and want to reach out to me personally, I'm happy to elaborate a little bit. I just don't want to try to do that again on this video today. And if I do come across anything, I'll link it in the description below so that you'll have a little bit of reference for further reading or viewing as well. So thank you all very much for following along my journey. I wish you all the very best along your journey as well, and have a great day.